Today, let's cover the results from yesterday's primaries. That was May 19th. We've got 6 states to get through, so we're going to go quick. Still some results coming in, but let's start here in Kentucky. This is in the U.S. House. Incumbent Republican Thomas Massie was defeated by Ed Gelrine, who was backed by Donald Trump. It was about a 10-point margin, but Massie, he's done. In the general election, this should be a super safe seat. Last time, Massie didn't even really face any competition. Here's the U.S. Senate to replace Mitch McConnell. The winner is Trump-backed Andy Barr. He defeated Daniel Cameron by about 30%. He's going to be heavily favored in November, and he's going to face Charles Booker. He defeated Amy McGrath by about 11%. Both of them have been nominees for the Dems in the past for the U.S. Senate, and they both have lost. Booker is more progressive, and he's going to face Barr. Now, Barr's old seat in the U.S. House is right here in the 6th District. Last time he won by about 23 points. Shouldn't really be a concern for the Republicans, but the winner is Alf Alvarado. He got about 56.5%. Let's go on to Georgia. We've got the U.S. Senate. Nobody got to 50%, so there's going to be a runoff between Mike Collins and Derek Dooley. Buddy Carter didn't make the cut with 25%. The runoff is June 16th, and Dooley was backed by Governor Brian Kemp. Trump really didn't weigh in on this particular race. But whoever wins that is going to go on to face Democrat Jon Ossoff in the general election. Ossoff is going to have an advantage. But we've got an open seat for governor. Brian Kemp is term limited. For the Dems, we've got former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms. She was able to avoid a runoff. She cleared 50%. She's at 56. So she's the nominee in November. What about the Republicans? Well, they're headed to a runoff between Burt Jones and Rick Jackson. Remember Jones, he's the lieutenant governor. He's backed by Trump. Jackson, the businessman outsider, kind of came in late, but he's made a splash. Both of them in the 30s. Brad Raffensperger in third place with 15%. Should be a pretty good runoff between these two to replace Kemp. Next, we've actually got a bright spot here for the Republicans. There were 3 retention elections on the state Supreme Court. They're technically nonpartisan, but they have a conservative ideology. One of them was unopposed, but 2 of them were contested. Both of them, the conservative-backed candidate won. Here's Charles Bethel. He's at about 51. Here's the other seat. This is relatively a massive blowout. This is 19% for Sarah Hawkins Warren. And these are the seats that Obama came out for. But apparently with it being nonpartisan, not a lot of campaigning, and Dems didn't take it seriously enough, that's going to mean this court is going to stay ideologically conservative for a lot longer. Now, just like with most of these states, there's other actions statewide, but I'm going to focus just on governor and the Senate, but I'll also point out open seats in the U.S. House. So we've got several here in Georgia. Then these are pretty safe districts, but in the first, Jim Kingston is your nominee. He got it done with 52%. In the 10th district, Houston Gaines won with 67. In the 11th, this is going to be a runoff between John Cowan and Rob Atkerson. Those 3 districts are red, but in the 13th, this is deep blue. This is to replace David Scott, who died in office. Now, there is an upcoming special election, but the winner of this is the nominee for the next term. It's a different person, and in this, it's Jasmine Clark. She got it done with 56%. Let's move on to Alabama. Got a big open seat in the U.S. Senate to replace Tommy Tuberville. And right now, the Trump-backed Barry Moore is headed to a runoff with 39%. Second place is the outsider, Jared Hudson. He's in there with 25.6. Attorney General Steve Marshall's trailing here with 24.5. It's a pretty red seat, but there is going to be a Democrat waiting in November. But they're also headed to a runoff here between Dakari Lariat and Everett West. Now, as I said, this is an open seat because Tommy Tuberville has decided to run for governor instead. He easily secured that nomination with over 85% of the vote, and he's going to face a familiar opponent in November. This is also former Senator Doug Jones, who Tuberville defeated in 2020. He's in there with over 78%. Jones, the clear underdog there, but he did pull off an upset back in 2017 in the Senate. Now, let's move on to Pennsylvania. There's no Senate race this year, and the nominees for governor ran unopposed. So we're going to go into the U.S. House. These are going to be competitive in November. In the 1st district, the winner is Bob Harvey. He's going to face Brian Fitzpatrick, the incumbent Republican. So keep an eye on this one. Then we've got the 3rd district. This is really blue. It's an open seat. It's in Philadelphia, and the winner is the progressive Chris Rabb. No runoffs here. He won with 44%. Here's the 7th district. The Dem nominee is Bob Brooks with 41%. He's going to go on to face Ryan McKenzie, the incumbent Republican. Definitely a big battle here in the Lehigh Valley. Then we've got the 10th district. This is going to be a rematch between Janelle Stelson, who won nomination with 67% for the Dems. She's going to face incumbent Republican Scott Perry. This was a real close one last time. Perry likely to be in danger in this national environment. Let's go out to Idaho. We've got incumbent Republican Jim Risch. He secured nomination with almost 2/3 of the vote. Still some vote outstanding, but he's going to go on to face David Roth, the Democratic nominee. He got just under 2/3 of the vote. There's a chance in this state an independent candidate could make things more interesting. Well, let's move on to governor. Incumbent Republican Brad Little, he got it done with 60% of the vote. He's going to go on in November, and he's going to face Terry Pickens for the Dems. She secured it with 62%. Not really any action in the U.S. House here. Let's go on to the last state. It's Oregon. Jeff Merkley won renomination with 93% of the vote. He's going to face his Republican challenger in November, and that is actually unclear who it's going to be. Right now, David Brock Smith is in the lead with 30%. Jo Ray Perkins is at 26.6. Perkins was the nominee in 22. She faced Ron Wyden and lost pretty comfortably. And finally, we've got governor of Oregon. Incumbent Tina Kotek is at 84%. She's moving on to November, and she's going to face Christine Drazan, who was the nominee for the Republicans 4 years ago, so it's a rematch. She's at 42.7. Republicans the clear underdog here, even if it's not expected to be a landslide. So those are the major races. There's a lot more out there, but I can't cover everything. So that's a speedy recap. We did do about a 5-hour stream yesterday. Thanks to everybody that showed up. For now, let me know in the comments, what do you think about any of the action in any of these states? How about Thomas Massie going down? Who's going to be the nominee for the Republicans in the Senate in Alabama, Georgia? What about the runoff for governor? Let me know what you're taking a look at down below on your way out. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Join if you'd like to support the channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.